You're sitting next to each other. He sat on the couch while you sat on your own. He sat on the couch while you were fully stretched out on the other. You're stretched out across him as he sat on the couch. You were cuddling on the couch. I feel like if I was dating someone, this would be how it is. You had your feet propped up on one of the armrests and used Cove as a comfy cushion beneath your head, totally settle it in. Cove gently wound his fingers through your hair as you rested on his legs, equally at ease. The day dragged on, and you found yourself yawning more and more often between conversations. You had almost dozed off completely when suddenly a buzz rang out, disturbing the silence. Your phone was on its charger in the kitchen, so it couldn't have been that. Cove pulled his own phone from his back pocket and checked the screen. His movement had jostled you, so you tried to readjust your position to get it right again. It's my mom. After leaning forward and setting the phone on the coffee table in front of him, Cove hit the speaker button. Hey, what's up? Z is here too.
Hi.
Hi, Cove. Hello, Z. You made a small noise in response. Hi, Kira. Hey, Mom. 3. Yo, we just started dating. We can't say that stuff. You're interrupting our very important do nothing time, you know. I hope you know you're interrupting our cuddle time. Hi. Cove, baby, I wanted to ask if you have a plan for all your junk. Cove made a small, outrageous grumble, giving you a sidelong glance. That's not junk, it's important. Though you couldn't see it, you could tell by that sound of her voice that Kira was smiling. But is that a yes or a no about the plan? He looked at you, his mouth pulled into a tight smile. I'm still thinking about it. Z? I'm gonna take the phone off speaker so me and Mom can go over this. It'll be quick. Cove carefully pushed you off him and took the phone from the table before pushing himself to his feet. He hit the speaker button again to turn it off and continue the conversation with his mom as he headed toward the door. The lock clicked behind him as he exited the house, and you sank back onto the cushion, idly trying to decide what to do next. After electing to grab your own phone from his charger, you resumed your position on the couch, tapping away at the screen. Your mind drifted away from thoughts of Cove and his phone call with all the many ways your device could distract you. It was an effective enough way to kill the time, and you had managed to do various little things, when the door opened again and Cove returned. A small smile pulled at the corners of his lips as he shuffled over to the back of the couch. He reached down to give one of your shoulders a soft stroke of his hand.
Hey.
I'm back. You gazed up at it fondly. You put a hand over his. You stretched up to hold his face. You tilted your head and gave him a small kiss. I gotta do it. He met you with a quick peck before pulling back quickly, a flush of pink staining his cheeks. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, just... He turned his head suddenly, running a hand through his hair and letting out an exasperated breath. He seemed nervous, but you couldn't imagine why. Not anything to worry about. You raised an eyebrow at his tone, moving your head to the side to try and meet his eye. That doesn't explain what's going on. He shrugged and gave you a tight smile, trying to play whatever it actually was off as unimportant. There's nothing going on. Just stuff I can deal with later, some other time. He was transparently avoiding the truth, and you stared back at him seriously, an indication that you weren't going to ignore what he was doing. Eventually he broke beneath your stare, hanging his head in his hands and groaning. I need to make another trip to my mom's place. There's some stuff out there that I'm going to use, so I have to go pick it up. It wouldn't make sense to ship it, and I couldn't bring the stuff back with me last time since I flew. Oh. Suddenly understood what the phone conversation had been about. Cove was about to drive to his mom's house in Nevada. When will you go? Mom thinks it'd be best to do it now while I'm still kind of free, but... Cove pouted, giving you an unhappy look, and you can see the prospect was already taking a toll on him. I don't want to. I was just there and free even longer than usual. Why do I have to leave right now when it's our last summer like this? You laughed, not knowing why he was being so difficult about it. You thought it was cute, he wanted to stay. You can hack it. I don't want you to go either. You shook your head affectionately. What would that mean? I mean, I'll go with that. I feel like I should. I don't even know what that means, but I want to go with that option. He was always dramatic. Looking up again, you met his bright aquamarine eyes, finding a sad smile tugging on his lips. Suddenly his eyebrows jumped and his eyes lit up like a lamp. You could come with me. What? You should come with. Oh, you should come with me. I mean, I get the two of us live next door to each other, and my mom lives in another state. My trips there are usually to spend time with her, just the two of us. But this time it won't be like that. All I'm gonna do is drive over and stay for a night, and then pack up the car in the morning and turn around again. This time will be spent in the car, so it'd be good to have another person there. Plus, you'd have a chance to see my mom again in her place. Maybe we could even find something cool to break out on the way. You couldn't stop yourself from laughing at his enthusiasm. He blushed a little, reining himself in.
Please?
I just feel like it could become, please, could you think about it? I want to go. A road trip sounds fun. I'll have to let my moms know, but as long as we've got nothing else important on the days we pick, then there's no reason I wouldn't be able to go. He grinned from ear to ear, thrilled by the news.
I'm so glad.
This is so great. I'll call my mom back and let her know right now. You spent some time together, going over your schedules and making plans for when you could take the trip. You needed to fit it in around Cove's work schedule, which he brought up on his phone to double check. Luckily, it was only a 2-day trip, so finding a couple free days in a row wasn't impossible. It wasn't long before the dates were finally set and all the plans were made. You were excited for the trip, you were content with the plans, you were nervous, you were feeling unsure about everything. I'd say I'm content. It would be a good chance for you to get out and see more of the country. It wasn't much of an inconvenience. No matter what you thought about things, the mornings when you were due to leave arrived. It was cooler than usual, the sun barely peeking over the tops of the houses. You stood outside your house on the footpath near the road, waiting for Cove. You yawned loudly, covering your mouth with the back of your hand. Mornings were always a struggle. With your travel bag clutched in one hand, you watched as Cove finished packing up his car. He had organized all sorts of things, water bottles, snacks, and who knows what else. Cove insisted he had everything under control and didn't need help at all. At least you could rest easy knowing that it was all taken care of. As you waited, you glanced over at Cove's car. You knew it well, it used to belong to Mr. Holden, and when Cove had learned to drive, it passed to him. His dad had taken the opportunity to get a newer one. It was pretty old at this point, but had served both of them well so far. You just hoped it had enough life left in it to survive a trip as long as the one you were barking on. The slam of the door closing made you jump. You snapped back to focus and saw Cove was walking towards you. He dusted his hands off on his pants and tilted his head toward the car. That's it. Ready to go? Yeah, I'm ready. He smiled and stepped aside, giving you space to situate your own bag where you wanted it. Once everything was safely inside, he glanced back at you.
Alright.
We should get started. It's gonna be a ways to go. Woo! You gave him a high five. You hugged him. He smiled back with a nod. I mean, it'd be early. I won't even think about hugging him. The two of you climbed into the car and buckled up. Cove in the driver's seat and you sitting shotgun. His eyes moved to you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for coming on this trip with me. Of course, it's no problem. After checking the mirrors and starting the engine, you pulled out of the driveway and the trip began. With a small sigh, you got cozy in your seat and watched the familiar houses in your neighborhood pass by. Cove reached over to turn on the radio. A crackle of static mixed with the odd snippets of songs filled the car as he flipped through the stations. Mr. Holden's car was in good condition, but it was well older. There was no way to plug in a phone to play music, so the radio had to do. Oh, that sucks. Eventually, he settled on a classic rock station before sitting back and resting both hands on the wheel. Is this okay? Yes, you know what I like. Yeah, it works, you know it. Can I change it? I'd rather have it off. Yes, you know what I like. He smiled, happy with the answer. Time flew by, and with the scenery outside your window becoming more and more unfamiliar, neither of you spoke for a good long while, but the quiet, it was comfortable. You had become all too used to each other's company over the years. Eventually, Cove broke the silence, clearing his throat softly before he spoke. It's been too long since you and I have spent time with my mom. I know she still comes to the neighborhood sometimes, but it's not even once a year. I'm always going to hers. I'm happy the two of us are doing this. Yeah, me too. Your elbow resting on the windowsill, you gazed out at a world that was slowly coming to life as the morning rolled on by. The sun climbed higher in the sky, forcing you to adjust the visor overhead to keep it out of your eyes. Hey, do you mind reaching back for me? Cove gave you a sidelong glance as he drove, indicating with a nod of his head and a tiny smile. I want some chips, the salt and vinegar ones. That's a great flavor. I don't know how you can eat that. He didn't have a comment on his selection. I think that's a great flavor. I can see why people don't like it, though.
Right?
Whatever you want, too. I brought a bunch of everything. Stretching out the seatbelt you gave to give yourself space, you twisted your spot and reached into the bag holding the snacks. It took a bit of effort to sort through the collection of goodies stuffed inside, but eventually the bag of chips crinkled beneath your finger as you pulled them out and sat back in your seat. Here. Thanks, do you mind opening it? His eyes lit up at the prospect of the snacks and you shook your head in amusement, popping the top of the bag. Poured a few chips in his hands, he held the open bag out towards him. I was thinking that. Want me to feed them to you? His eyes widened, the hint of blush creeping over his cheeks, but he said fastly, continued to face the road. No, that's... Hey, why you gotta be like that? You fed me, well, I'm gonna feed you. What? No, that's okay. Can you just pour a few into my hand? Yeah, sure. Thanks. Cove held out the one outstretched hand. You did your best to have the chips fall into his palm, but some did end up on the floor. After that, you rolled up the top of the bag and stowed the chips safely in the back again. When he turned to the front, it was to find Cove crushing the fistful of chips into his mouth, crunching loudly. He wiped his hands on his pants absentmindedly before gripping the wheel and spilling crumbs all over the place. You're like a little kid, you laughed at that. How can you eat that much at once? I'm impressed. How can you eat that much at once? Cove mumbled through his mouthful of chips and you stared at him in disbelief. You had no idea what he was trying to say, but you couldn't stop yourself from chuckling at how ridiculous he looked. The hour drifted by much the same way as that, with the two of you snacking and chatting as the day stretched on. It was fairly calm and quiet traveling along the open road, and you found little in the way of interruptions. At one point, you passed a Welcome to Nevada sign, and Cove gave a tiny cheer. He was in disbelief that the two of you were seriously all the way in another state like this. Eventually, you had to stop for gas and made a detour at a small diner to grab a proper meal that didn't consist of chips and candy. After refueling both the car and your stomachs, the drive was back on just as the sun began dipping beneath the horizon, bathing the sky in a wash of orange light. Cove informed you that there wasn't too much longer left to go. You were almost there. You took shifts driving through the trip. You helped Cove stay alert while he drove. Well, I know how to drive. It's fine. You took shifts driving throughout the trip. The route was fairly straightforward, and you had enough practice with driving to feel comfortable doing so. When night eventually fell in a blanket of darkness, the drive finally came to an end. Cove pulled into a parking lot of Kira's apartment building, the glow of the car lights disappearing as he turned off the engine and let out a heavy sigh. We made it. We're here. The two of you exchanged tired smiles, having successfully and safely completed one half of the trip. You were relieved to have actually arrived and eager to get out of the car and stretch your legs. You took the stairs up to the building together. After a knock, you were abruptly met by a flash of green hair as Kira opened the door and immediately took her son into her arms. There he is, my gigantic baby boy. Oh, I like her new outfit. Oh, and I like how her hair is, you know? She squeezed him for a moment and then pulled back so she could examine his face. Are you even taller than the last time I saw you? Cove gave her a fond look as she patted the tops of his shoulders proudly. You say that every time I'm here. It doesn't even make sense right now. My last visit wasn't that long ago. Kira simply laughed before letting him go fully and ushering the two of you into her apartment. Then she turned to you, a wide grin pulling at her lips. Z, it's so nice you came along with, and as a bonus, you both arrived in one piece. Yeah, it's good to see you. It's been a long time. Kira beamed at you both, and while you would have loved nothing more than to settle down and rest after the drive, you could see she wasn't going to let you go that easily. How was the trip? I admit I was just a pinch worried. We barely made it. I appreciate your concern, but it was alright. You felt the fussing was unnecessary. You let Cove answer that. I appreciate your concern, but it was alright. You made it without a scratch. Kira clapped her hands together, the bracelet around her wrist jiggling. I'm so proud. I can hardly believe how mature you both are. Where did all those smarts come from? Cove ran a hand over his hair with an awkward chuckle. Maybe I got some from my parents. His mom looked up at him deeply, her eyes glistening as she shook the sentimentally off with the wave of her hand. You have to be half asleep already, huh? I don't want to keep you up much longer. Early morning. How do you want to deal with the sleeping arrangements? I've only got my own room, and Cove's through the living room couch isn't bad. Cove's the living room couch isn't bad. Z can use my bed. I'll just sleep on the floor in the room. Doesn't matter for one night. Kira laughed out loud, startling you both. You raised an eyebrow at her outburst, giving her a quizzical look. Oh yeah, you'll stay on the floor. You couldn't handle that much back when you were 13 with both your parents in the room. Okay, yeah, you can't forget. Oh, blushed the dark red and gaped, completely unprepared for her to pull out that embarrassing moment from the past.
Hey!